Todd Morgan vanished without a trace. Emily Morgan's sorrow hid a darker secret. Clara Reed's silence spoke volumes, and Jake Collins's alibi didn't add up. What deadly truth were they all hiding, and who was willing to kill to keep it buried? Todd Morgan was the kind of man who never attracted much attention. He lived in Pinebrook, a sleepy town nestled between dense forests and winding rivers. To the outside world, Todd's life was simple and uneventful. He worked at the local hardware store, returned home to his small house each night, and rarely ventured far from the town's quiet streets. Neighbors described him as polite but reserved, someone who kept to himself. Yet, beneath that calm exterior, something about Todd's life was about to unravel in a way no one could have imagined. It began one ordinary autumn evening. The leaves had turned brilliant shades of orange and red, casting long shadows over the streets as the sun dipped below the horizon. Todd left work just before closing time, as usual, and was seen briefly by a few townsfolk walking toward his car. What happened after that would become the mystery that gripped Pinebrook for months to come. Todd never made it home that night. When Todd failed to answer his phone and missed an important meeting the next morning, his sister Emily started to worry. She called the police and reported him missing. The officers arrived quickly, but all they could find was Todd's car, parked at the edge of Pinebrook's old forest trail, engine cold and doors unlocked. Inside the car, the keys were still in the ignition, and Todd's wallet lay untouched on the passenger seat. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. The forest surrounding the car was dense and dark, with twisted branches that blocked much of the daylight. Search parties combed the area, their flashlights piercing the gloom. They found footprints, but they were muddled and seemed to lead nowhere. Some tracks looked fresh, others older, as if someone had been there recently, or someone had been trying to cover their path. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, no clues to suggest foul play. The only sound was the eerie rustling of leaves and the distant call of a lone owl. The deeper the investigators searched, the more questions piled up. Locals began to whisper theories in hushed tones. Some believed Todd had gotten lost in the woods and was wandering, confused or hurt. Others speculated he might have run away, hiding from something or someone. Todd wasn't the type to disappear without a word or leave behind everything he owned. Something was terribly wrong. The police dug into Todd's recent activities, hoping to find a lead. They discovered that in the weeks before his disappearance, Todd had been acting strangely. He stopped coming to the hardware store on some days and was seen meeting with a woman nobody in town knew well, Clara Reed. Clara lived on the edge of Pinebrook, in a run-down cottage surrounded by wild gardens. She was an artist, quiet and reclusive, with a reputation for being mysterious and distant. People in town didn't trust her, especially after rumors surfaced about her troubled past. Emily felt uneasy about Clara, but didn't know how the two were connected. Was Clara involved in Todd's disappearance? Had Todd been dragged into something he shouldn't have been? The more Emily thought about it, the more shadows seemed to stretch across her brother's life. He had been hiding something, a secret that might have cost him everything. Days passed, and the pressure on the police mounted. The community wanted answers, but the case was becoming colder with each passing hour. Todd Morgan had disappeared into the night, leaving behind nothing but questions and a trail of silence. The quiet town of Pinebrook was no longer as peaceful as it once seemed. Beneath its calm surface, dark secrets waited to be uncovered, and the truth about Todd's fate lay hidden. Somewhere deep in the shadows of the forest, and perhaps much closer than anyone realized, what happened to Todd Morgan? Why did he vanish without a trace? And who, if anyone, was watching from the darkness? The search for answers had only just begun. As the investigation into Todd Morgan's disappearance grew more intense, Detective Sarah Lane was brought in to lead the case. Sarah was known for her sharp instincts and relentless pursuit of the truth, but even she found herself unsettled by the strange circumstances surrounding Todd's vanishing. What began as a simple missing persons case soon twisted into something far more complicated, revealing layers of secrets that no one in Pinebrook expected. Detective Lane started by digging into Todd's life, searching for any clues about what might have led to his sudden disappearance. It didn't take long before she uncovered something unusual. Todd had been meeting with Clara Reed in secret. Clara was an enigmatic figure in town. Her reputation was clouded by whispers of scandal and mistrust. People avoided her, calling her the outsider. But why was Todd spending time with someone so disconnected from the community? The detective discovered that their meetings weren't random. Clara was an artist, but her paintings often depicted dark, haunting scenes that seemed to tell a story, one filled with pain, fear, and something unspoken. Sarah began to suspect that Clara knew more than she let on. When she questioned Clara about Todd, the woman's answers were vague and defensive. Clara insisted she was no threat and claimed she barely knew Todd. But surveillance footage told a different story. On several nights leading up to Todd's disappearance, she was seen near the hardware store and in the forest. Her silence only deepened the mystery. At the same time, Sarah turned her attention to Jake Collins, a man whose name came up repeatedly during the investigation. Jake was a local businessman with a tough reputation and a history of aggressive behavior. He and Todd had clashed over business matters in the past, their disagreements well known around town. Jake had powerful connections and many enemies, but no one believed he would resort to murder, or so it seemed. Yet when Sarah examined his alibi, inconsistencies appeared, and he refused to fully cooperate. With two possible suspects emerging, Sarah felt the case becoming a tangled web of motives and lies. Todd's life was far from the quiet existence everyone assumed. Pieces of a hidden puzzle began falling into place. Todd had been gathering information, evidence that pointed to illegal dealings and corruption in Pinebrook. It was as if he was preparing to expose something dangerous, but what exactly was he uncovering, and who wanted to keep it buried? Emily Morgan, Todd's sister, grew restless as the investigation unfolded. She found a small worn diary among Todd's belongings that had been overlooked. Inside, Todd had written about his fears. Someone was watching him, someone he once trusted. The entries grew darker as the days passed, filled with mentions of secret meetings, threats, and warnings he had received but never shared. The diary hinted at betrayal from within his own circle, but Todd never named names. Detective Lane carefully pieced together the fragments. Clara's connection to Todd was deeper than anyone had suspected, and Jake's hostility might have been more than just business rivalry. But the diary suggested something else entirely. The danger might be closer to home, hidden beneath the surface of Todd's carefully guarded life. The question was, who was it? The investigation took on a new urgency. Sarah knew the truth was buried beneath layers of deception, and every new detail brought her closer to uncovering a secret that someone was willing to kill to protect. The town of Pinebrook, with its quiet streets and friendly faces, was not as innocent as it seemed. Shadows lurked behind every door, and the search for Todd Morgan was no longer just about finding a missing man. It was about exposing the hidden darkness that threatened to consume them all. As the pieces moved into place, one thing became clear. Todd had stumbled onto something deadly, and those who wanted him silenced were still watching. The next move could change everything, and the truth about Todd Morgan's fate was closer than anyone dared to imagine. Detective Sarah Lane's investigation was reaching a critical point. With Todd Morgan still missing, the pressure to uncover what had happened to him was mounting. The tangled web of suspects and motives was growing more complex by the day. Jake Collins, the local businessman, had become a person of interest, not just because of his known disputes with Todd, but due to his shady reputation and secretive behavior. Yet, despite the growing suspicion around Jake, something didn't quite fit. Jake was tough and rough around the edges, but he had his own alibi, backed by people who swore he was elsewhere on the night Todd disappeared. Still, His aggressive past and tendency to intimidate others made him an easy target for suspicion. But Sarah sensed that Jake might be just a piece of a larger puzzle, a distraction from the real danger lurking beneath Pinebrook's calm facade. Meanwhile, Clara Reed's story was becoming even more mysterious. The artist who lived on the edge of town was known for keeping to herself, but now it was clear she had secrets she wasn't willing to share. The surveillance footage placing her near the forest the night Todd vanished raised eyebrows. When questioned, Clara's answers were cryptic, and her refusal to explain her movements only deepened the sense that she was hiding something important. Why had she been there? What was she doing in the shadows so close to where Todd's car was found? The real breakthrough came when Emily Morgan, Todd's sister, found a hidden compartment in Todd's workshop. Inside, she discovered a worn leather-bound diary, pages filled with Todd's personal thoughts and fears. As she read through the entries, a chilling picture began to emerge. Todd had been increasingly paranoid, convinced that someone close to him was spying, waiting to strike. The diary mentioned coded messages, secret meetings, and a growing sense of danger. He wrote about his distrust of certain people, though he never directly named them. One entry stood out. Todd had written about a meeting he planned with a trusted friend to reveal what he had uncovered about illegal dealings in town. He believed that if he went public with this information, lives could be at risk, but he also feared betrayal. The diary was a silent scream for help, one that went unheard. Detective Lane began connecting the dots. Clara and Jake were part of the story, but not the whole story. The diary suggested that Todd's real threat might be someone he considered family, someone who had the most to lose if his secrets came out. The detective's instincts told her to look closer at Emily, Todd's own sister. At first, Emily appeared grief-stricken and desperate for answers, but Sarah noticed subtle details, moments when Emily's grief seemed forced, when her concern seemed calculated. The tension in Pinebrook was thickening. Rumors spread quickly, and neighbors started to question each other's motives. Everyone wondered who Todd really was behind closed doors. Was he a victim of an outside enemy, or had the danger come from within his own family? As Detective Lane pushed deeper, new evidence surfaced. Emails and texts on Todd's phone revealed threats from unknown numbers, warning him to stop digging. Clara's connection to Todd suddenly made sense in a new light. Perhaps she was a confidant, or maybe even an accomplice. But the diary's warnings about betrayal from within kept haunting Sarah. Then came the most puzzling discovery. Fingerprints on Todd's missing laptop didn't match Jake or Clara, but matched Emily's. The revelation sent shockwaves through the investigation. Could Emily, who had seemed so devoted to finding her brother, actually be involved in his disappearance? What secrets was she hiding? Was her love for Todd real, or was it something darker? The forest around Pinebrook seemed to hold its breath as the mystery deepened. The clues were pointing toward a hidden enemy. Someone close, someone who knew Todd's movements, his fears, and his plans. As Sarah prepared to confront the next phase of the investigation, the line between friend and foe blurred. Every step forward revealed more questions, and the truth about Todd Morgan's fate was more twisted than anyone had imagined. The town's dark secrets were beginning to surface, and the haunting shadow of betrayal loomed larger with each passing day. What had Todd discovered, and who was willing to kill to keep those secrets buried forever? The discovery of Todd Morgan's disappearance had shaken Pinebrook to its core, but nothing prepared the town for the grim discovery that would come next. Weeks of searching through the dense forest and abandoned places had turned up little, but a breakthrough came when a local hiker stumbled upon something strange. A weathered old cabin, hidden beneath overgrown vines and fallen trees deep in the woods. The cabin looked abandoned, its windows shattered and door hanging loosely on its hinges. But inside, beneath a loose floorboard, lay a chilling secret. Todd's body, pale and lifeless, was found hidden away from the world. The shock that rippled through Pinebrook was immediate and overwhelming. The man they had been desperately searching for was not lost or hiding. He had been murdered. The medical examiner's report confirmed what everyone feared. Todd died from a single stab wound, swift and precise. Yet the murder weapon was nowhere to be found. This absence deepened the mystery. Whoever killed Todd had been careful, meticulous even, erasing almost every trace of their presence. Detective Sarah Lane knew the case was far from over. The discovery of the body shifted the investigation from a missing persons case to a full-blown murder inquiry, and the list of suspects narrowed. Jake Collins and Clara Reed, the two most obvious suspects, were suddenly looking less likely to be the killers. Jake's alibi was solid, and Clara's evasiveness, while suspicious, didn't directly connect her to the murder. Then, a shocking new piece of evidence came to light. While reviewing old photographs and documents recovered from Todd's belongings, Sarah found something that made her heart race. Hidden in the back of a family photo album was a note, hastily written and folded so small it had almost been missed. The note contained a cryptic warning. "Not all betrayals come from strangers. Watch your blood." The words suggested a betrayal from someone very close, someone Todd trusted. Sarah's mind raced back to Todd's diary and the fears he had expressed about a trusted friend. The possibility that the killer was inside his own family could no longer be ignored. Focus shifted to Emily Morgan, Todd's sister. At first, her grief seemed genuine, her sorrow evident in every tear. But as Sarah looked closer, she began to notice inconsistencies, small lies and moments where Emily's pain felt rehearsed rather than spontaneous. More unsettling was the fact that Emily had been the last person to see Todd alive, according to some witness statements, though she had never admitted it publicly. Further investigation uncovered a darker side to Emily's relationship with Todd. Family friends whispered about long-standing jealousy and bitter arguments over inheritance and Todd's secret meetings. Emily had been fiercely protective of the family's reputation, and the thought of Todd exposing corruption and illegal dealings in Pinebrook seemed to terrify her. With mounting evidence, Sarah confronted Emily. Though the confrontation brought no confession, the weight of suspicion hung heavy in the air. It became clear that Emily had been hiding something, perhaps more than anyone had imagined. The pieces began to fit together in a disturbing pattern. Todd's disappearance, the secret meetings, the hidden diary, the cryptic note, all pointed to a family torn apart by jealousy, fear, and desperation. Emily's actions appeared calculated, a desperate attempt to protect the family name at any cost. The shocking realization settled over the town. The true enemy had been standing right beside Todd all along. A murder born not out of random violence but out of betrayal so deep it cut through blood ties. The quiet town of Pinebrook had been hiding a secret darker than anyone suspected. A murder not of strangers, but of family. The investigation was far from over. With Emily's motives clearer but her guilt still unproven, Detective Lane knew that the next steps would be critical. The truth about Todd Morgan's murder was finally within reach, but uncovering it meant confronting the painful, bloody truths hidden beneath years of silence and lies. The shadows in Pinebrook had grown longer, and the chilling reality was undeniable. Sometimes, the worst betrayals come from the ones closest to us. The discovery of Todd Morgan's body beneath the cabin floorboard sent shockwaves through Pinebrook. But Detective Sarah Lane knew the story was far from finished. The town had been shaken by betrayal and loss. But the final pieces of the puzzle were still missing. What Todd had uncovered before his death was the key to understanding why someone close to him had silenced him forever. Todd's hardware store had always seemed like a simple business, a place where locals bought tools and supplies. But as Sarah and her team dug deeper, they uncovered a darker truth. Todd had been using the store as a front, a clever cover to gather evidence on a growing web of corruption that stretched far beyond Pinebrook's borders. Invoices, secret ledgers, and coded messages hidden in seemingly ordinary receipts revealed Todd's tireless work to expose illegal activities involving money laundering, bribery, and even threats to town officials. The scope of Todd's investigation stunned Sarah. He wasn't just a man with a secret. He was a whistleblower, risking everything to bring the truth to light. And that made him a dangerous threat to those who wanted to keep their crimes hidden. But what made the case even more horrifying was that the danger had come from inside Todd's own family. The diary, the cryptic note, the suspicious behavior. They all pointed to one person, Emily Morgan. Her jealousy and fear had driven her to make a terrible choice. Todd's secret meetings and growing distrust didn't just threaten the town's corrupt elite. They threatened her world, her control over the family legacy. Emily's motive became clear. The family's reputation was everything to her, and Todd's plans to expose the truth would have destroyed everything she cared about. In a desperate act to protect the family name, she chose to silence Todd. The stabbing was swift, but the cover-up meticulous. Emily hid the body in the abandoned cabin, erased evidence, and played the part of the grieving sister. Sarah confronted Emily with the evidence, and though Emily never fully admitted guilt, the weight of the truth was undeniable. The town was stunned. The person they had trusted most had become the architect of the town's darkest crime. Pinebrook's peaceful surface had been shattered by greed, jealousy, and a bloody secret. The investigation also revealed Clara Reed's true role. Far from an accomplice, Clara had been an unexpected ally to Todd, helping him navigate the shadows and providing the support he needed to gather proof. Her mysterious nature had made her an easy suspect, but in the end, she was another victim of the corruption Todd had vowed to expose. Jake Collins, too, was caught in the fallout. His business dealings were scrutinized, and though he wasn't guilty of murder, his involvement in the corruption network became undeniable. Todd's death was a tragic consequence of a town struggling with its own darkness. As the truth emerged, Pinebrook was forced to confront its hidden wounds. The town's quiet streets held painful memories and difficult truths, the kind that don't easily heal. Todd Morgan's murder was a brutal reminder that beneath calm appearances, secrets fester, and sometimes the most dangerous threats come from the ones we trust the most. Detective Lane closed the case with a heavy heart. Justice had been served, but the scars remained. Pinebrook would never forget Todd Morgan, a man who dared to fight for truth and paid the ultimate price. His legacy was a warning, a lesson carved into the town's history. Sometimes, the bloodiest truths lie hidden in the places we least expect. The shadows over Pinebrook began to lift, but the haunting question lingered. How many more secrets remained buried beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered?